Okay. All right, so let me walk you through how I would approach starting something like this. So I have an example type specimen here that I want to break down so that I can create the grid and put all the things inside of the grid. This is a pretty simple example. So the first thing I want to do is determine where how many columns I'm going to have. So it looks like here it's going to be 1, 2, 3 columns. So I'm going to go ahead and map this out. And I always do this. I always get on pen and paper and just draw the grid. And that's pretty normal for web designers, just to really start with just pen and paper. So I'm going to need columns there. And that's all I need there. I just need columns. They're probably all the same length. So it's probably just going to be 1 FR, 1 FR, 1 FR. And then for rows, we're going to have 1 row here. We're going to put a row here. Now this is going to span 2 rows, so we need a row here so we can put this part right in there. And then probably going to need a row down here because this is going to need to span across those 3. So we're going to have 3 columns and 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. Now, I don't have to explicitly declare the rows because they'll create themselves as I put stuff in there, but I could if I wanted to. So let's talk about the items that are going to go on the grid. So let's take a look at this and determine, how many grid items we're going to need, the containers for what's going to, for the content that's going to go on there. So I can see that this part at the top is going to be 1 grid item right there, 1 container. So I'm just going to mark it off here. So that's going to be 1 div that spans 3 columns. Okay. And then down here, I can make this all, I don't need to split this into 2. I can make it 1 long one because it's just sort of normal document flow where things just stack on top of each other. So it can just be 1 long one that's going to span 2 rows. So I'm going to have 1 grid item right there. Next is this one here. That's going to go just default one row, 1 column. And then this one here, same thing, just default. I probably won't have to do anything for those. They'll just fall in line. This one here is going to span 2 columns here. And then I have like a footer down here. It's gonna be kind of like the header. It's gonna span 3 columns. So after doing that, after sort of mapping it out like that, I can tell that I'm gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 grid items inside of my grids. I'm going to have a parent container, and inside of it are going to be 6 grid items. And then inside of those containers, I'm going to put all the content, like all the text, the P tags, the H something tags, all of that. So, so I'll do a quick structure over in CodePen here. So I'm just going to write out the HTML right away. I'm going to say, first I'm going to make a container, div dot container. And how many did I say there were? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just make one 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's my main structure right there. I've got a container and I've got 6 divs. I'm going to start putting stuff in there. So now, oh, you know what I want to do? I want to give them all a class of, I'm going to give them a, yeah, I'm just going to do that. I want to create a border around them so that I can see them and show you. So I'm just going to do div. Again, doing a generic div selector is kind of dangerous sometimes, but I'm just going to do it for this example because we only have so many divs on there. So I'm going to say border 1 pixel solid black. Okay, they're all collapsed right now. I can't see anything. So I'm going to add a little bit of padding so that it has something inside of it. There we go. So I can see I've got the containers outside, and then I've got 5 or 6 divs inside of it. Okay, so now I'm going to turn the container into a grid container. So I'm going to say display grid. Nothing happened, but it is a grid. It's just a grid of 1 column because we haven't declared any columns. So now I'm going to say grid template columns. And they're the same. So I'm going to say 1 FR, 1 FR, 1 FR. And now I have 3 columns. Awesome. Okay, that looks good. So let's start adjusting those grid items. So the first one, I'm going to give it a class of header. And then down here, I'm going to say header and grid column. And it's going to go all the way across. It's going to start at 1, 2, 3, and it's going to go to 4. So I'm going to say 1, 4. Boom, we've got the header all the way across there. Okay, the next one is this one here, which is going to span, if we go back here, take a look. This one, it's going to span 2 rows. So I'm going to call that one class equals column 1. Down here, dot column 1, grid row. It's going to start at 2, 3, and go to 4. So 2, 4. There we go. Okay, so this one's spanning 2 rows. And then these are doing what they're supposed to do. They're just taking up 1 column and 1 row like that. So the next one is this one right here. That's going to span 2 columns. That one right here. So I'm going to call that, what is it? What should we call that? I don't know. It's a bunch of different fonts there. I'm just going to say fonts. This one here. Class equals fonts. And then down here, dot fonts. Grid column. And it's going to start at 2. No, yeah, it's going to start at 2 and go to 4. So 2, 4. Okay, so there it is right here. Good. So now we just need to take this one, which is the footer, and span it across 3. So I'm going to say dot footer grid column And actually, I don't have to type in 1, 4. I could just say span 3, and it's the same thing. I lied. Why is that? Oh, I never applied the class up here. That's why. Class equals footer. Oops. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, there it is. It went. It just took a second. So there, that's it. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like the complete layout, but it really is, because once I start adding content, it's going to start stretching out and stretching out and stretching out. I prefer personally to let the content determine the height, because then it's much more fluid. If the page shrinks a little bit and the columns, more lines start breaking, it'll be fluid and it'll expand and contract according to the size of the window, rather than declaring exactly how high I want it to be. So try that out. If you need some more space somewhere, consider adding some margin or padding inside of the grid item container to get it to, flesh itself out. I hope this was helpful. Do you have any questions? Let's start to clarify it, how to get started. Well, I'm here. Please, please, please utilize. I'm like your development team. Okay, you're the designer and I'm your development team. I'm here to walk you through the code. And you need to, get used to asking for help. Even if it's like your neighbor, sometimes just sitting down and trying to describe the problem you're having to someone else, by talking it out, you figure it out on your own. So you could just sit there with your cat and just, describe, well, it's supposed to do this, but it's not doing that because I did this. And then you're like, oh my God, I totally forgot to do this. I didn't apply the class. When I was in grad school, we had this big computer lab where everyone works and everyone's working on their projects. And in the corner, we had this chair and someone had this dummy. It was just inflatable dummy. It was just the bust of inflatable dummy of Ronald Reagan, and sat in the chair. And so whenever you had a problem with your code or something, you like wheeled the Ronald Reagan over into your little cubicle, and then you talk to him and you explain your code. Not everyone did it, but it was kind of funny. Okay, yeah.
For adding in the container for a website, we'll add that shrinking in that the container gives for a div.
The div automatically doesn't have any margins or padding or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
So I just added some so that we could actually see it.
Okay.
But I would, do that in the beginning, and then when I'm done here, I would just like delete this right here. Okay. So that, it goes back to normal. Mm-hmm. One thing you might notice, like if you have, see how there's a tiny bit of space right here? Oh no, right here. That's because there's also a what's called a body tag, and you'll learn about this later on. The body tag is, it doesn't show up in CodePen, but you will get used to coding it when we get into creating our own files. But it's basically the entire page, and it has a little bit of margin or margin to it. So if you don't want that space, like you maybe you want the color to go all the way to the edge and it's not, you can say body margin 0, and then it'll go away. It'll do a full bleed. So just one little trick.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okie dokie. And I don't know if I pointed this out, but I put in here, if you need another crash course, and this is a really good, really quick, it's less than 30 minutes. just going over basically what I went over the first day. So that's really helpful. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. And like I said, I'm gonna walk around, I'll be here. If you're having any problem at all, or you just are totally blanking out, and you don't know where to start, call me over. That's what I'm here for. I like it. I like to do that. You know, I feel useless up here if nobody's asking for help. So, okay. Okay. Got me all excited.
Sorry.
Yeah, can I help?